You never truly know people until you take the time out to get to know people. I'm going to say that again. You never truly know people until you take the time out to get to know people. This is without a doubt the most impactful CTA that we have ever done on this platform. We've had over 100 different guests sitting on this seat, but today's is special. For a lot of time, people have asked me to do political conversations, and I have turned them down because I have wanted to start on the right foundation when it came to doing this kind of conversations. For me, this is not even a political conversation. This is a leadership conversation. The reason why I say this CTA is so important is because this is a packaging of history. Unless you know your history, you're not able to better your future. You're not able to better your present. The lady who we have today has been alive for all the presidents who have been in this country. She is a pillar and a foundation in the history of this country, and not just the history, even the future of this country. I don't introduce people by their titles, and I let them sit on the seat to be the ones to unveil to you who they are. I intentionally don't do that, but this one I feel like I want to. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let the guest unveil to you who she is. You think you know her, but I tell you, I promise you, you do not know her. Let her tell you from her own mouth who she is. It is an honor. It is a privilege. We are super excited. We have been here from very early in the morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Aizo and Wamai, we've also got Diana in the house. Put your hands together for none other than Honorable Martha Karua.
Thank you.
Martha, can I please call you Martha?
Yes,
from the
it's
beginning.
my name. It's my name.
It is your name.
Yes.
I thank you first and foremost for coming to
Thank
sit
you for
here.
having me.
I've got to meet you today, and I've already felt your warmth. Excited about the conversation that we are going to have. It is an honor and a privilege for us to have you here, and we want to start first and foremost by honoring you. We want to thank you, or I personally want to thank you for all that you have done for this country, for the fight that you have fought, for the day, for all that you have done to get us to where it is that we are. So this is a very relaxed conversation. This is different from your typical, it's not an interview, it is a conversation. Okay. So all I want us to do is relax, have a conversation. If you want to stop, we're going to stop. If you want anything, we get it. And feel free to share your story. Okay. So on CTA, we start this from the very, very beginning. And the very beginning of the conversation is your birth. But because of what happened yesterday, and yesterday being the disbursement, the president's dissolved, that's the word, cabinet. I would like to know, what are your thoughts on this Gen Z generation before we then get into your story and just the impact that they're having on the political landscape in this amazing country, the greatest nation on earth, Kenya?
Firstly, I'm so grateful to be alive at a time like this, to witness what is happening in this country. Gen Z waking up the country to reclaim our agency, because it's like we lost our agency, our voices. And the Gen Z have done it better than we ever did it as politicians. Last year, we tried to wake up the country on issues of the cost of living, accountability, etc. We did to a certain extent, but our children have done it better. They have asked the relevant questions to anyone without fear of favor. Where we politicians would fear the church, we cannot dare confront them, because if they all ganged up together, they would finish you. Yep. The Gen Z is sparing nobody. They have initiated the conversation we've wanted. We, deep in our hearts, would have wanted to initiate with the church, but had not. Yep. They have told the church, be accountable too. Preach the gospel and be the first to adhere to the gospel you preach.
I love it.
Accountability. They have raised the bar of accountability to all the to the leadership generally, not just to political leaders, but yes, to political leadership. They've asked the relevant questions. The accountability we are talking about, because it was triggered by the Finance Bill 2024.
Yep.
They're saying, hey, wait a minute. Whom does the state serve? The political elite or the masses? That really is the question. Be accountable to us. We are the owners of the state.
Yep.
We are sovereign. Are you serving us? And you look at the budget and you see it's made for the comfort of the political elite, ignoring the basic needs of the masses. And that's how the state is currently designed. Everything is for a favored few, while the rest are having it rough. Those are the questions of accountability that are being raised in this space. And it's accountability in everything. Yeah.
I love it. I'm a millennial, and one of the people who I've had the privilege of having on this seat is a guy called Boniface Mwangi. And man, when I listened to his story, I'm like, Boni. But when I see what the Gen Zs are, it is a full generation of Boniface Mwangis. And by that, I'm talking about active citizens.
Yes, active and engaged citizens.
I love it. This is going to be a good one. What people don't know is before the Gen Zs becoming active citizens, activists, Martha was there. And we're about to hear this whole story. So, Martha, and you've allowed me to call you Martha?
Yes,
because it is Honorable Martha.
It's my name.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's start this from the very beginning.
Yeah.
When were you born?
1957, September, the 22nd. A date I celebrate every year, mostly on Twitter. But I hold parties for the 0s and the 5s.
Oh, nice.
So I last held a celebration 2 years ago in 2022 when I turned 65. But last year I had a Twitter birthday. Even this year I'll have a Twitter birthday.
Oof, I love it. So I like understanding the context of a person. I believe the upbringing and I believe the family setting begins to instill and inject the values into the person. So where are you born? And also tell me a little bit about your family structure.
Born in Kirinyaga to my parents, Karua and Josephine Wanjiru. Both were teachers when they met, and they actually met in Baricho Primary School, where both had been posted as teachers. I'm the second born. My sister Margaret, who is the firstborn, was born at Baricho. They then moved to a school called Mukinduri. So I was born when they were both teaching at Mukinduri, at which time, and at the Kirugwea District Hospital. At that time, after my birth, my mom stopped teaching. It was expected of her, and she also felt it as an obligation, she tells me, after having 2 children, to stop any formal employment and be a full-time mother to raise her children and mind the home.
Can I even just ask, you've said something.
Yeah.
For 1957, I want to bring in context of this. For a woman to be teaching or a woman to be in formal employment, isn't that already out of the norm?
Yes, it was already out of the norm, but my mom's story, which is different from my father's story, her parents were both nurses or clinical officers, whatever it was at that time. They were both working at the Kirugwea District Hospital when they met. My grandmother, Martha, was from the Nyeri side, Tomotomo area, but posted as a nurse at the Kirugwea Hospital. My grandfather is from Inoi, from the Koigo area, posted also as a nurse at the Kirugwea District Hospital. That's where they met. So they were both educated. They married, both Christians, and my mother is their firstborn. So my mother went to school. You remember those days, very few women were going to school.
Yep.
So she went to school, or her siblings went to school, and that's how they later come to meet with my father.
you're already dropping so much wisdom, and I want to paint context to a generation that may not understand this. The fact that your mother went to school already is different, isn't? Am I?
It is.
Yes, because she's a female. And I'm trying to just paint the kind of structure that's not who was prioritized probably at that time.
Yeah, but you see, she's born of parents both who went to school, who are both working.
Okay.
My father had a different background. My grandmother, Gichugu, that is my paternal grandmother, didn't go to school, was a fifth wife of Jarobio, the youngest. And Jarobio's, some of his earlier children were older than my grandmother. So my grandmother had 5 children, my dad being the third. The others are all girls. And they never went to school. My dad, who is in the middle, gets to go to school. So that's how they later met with my mom.
Okay.
And those days, what my grandfather, my paternal grandfather did, sending only the son to school, was the norm. Girls were never taken to school, it's the boys.
Yep.
And school was expensive. Never mind that it could have been like 50 cents. But money was not readily available.
Yeah.
In fact, my grandmother used to tell me, how she started growing carrots, which she would go to sell at Karatina Market. And you walk all the way from my home in Kabare, you know, Kemunye, which is part of the larger Kabare location.
Yes.
We are near the Mount Kenya forest. Imagine her traversing and walking all the way to Karatina to sell her carrots.
Even by car, that's a distance.
She was not going by car, they were walking.
Yes.
It means you do more than a day.
Yep.
Going to the market and coming back is also an issue. And you go in groups. So there were products of different backgrounds, but education, we say, is an equalizer. They meet in Baricho and they get married.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard you say that Margaret is your firstborn, you're the second born in 1957. Yeah. How many other siblings do you have? And are there any boys in that mix?
We are 8.
Whoa!
4 girls and 4 boys. So Margaret and I lead the pack as number 1 and 2. Then we have 3 boys, then 2 girls, and the full stopper boy. Yeah, so 4 of us.
One of the things that I have to also mention is that you are, as you give the story, we begin to unveil you. One of the things that you are is a mother.
Yeah.
That you're a mother of a daughter and a son.
Yeah.
And I'm also sure a mother of many other people.
Yeah.
In a sense, adopted, not biologically adopted, but adopted as you've picked people up.
We normally nurture as many as we can. Some by just the proximity, because some will be within the home, the homestead, or you encounter them, and others because it is necessary.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I've understood the context of your parents, your mom even stopping to be a teacher to now become a full-time mother.
Yeah.
Explain to me the environment now. At this time, oh, by the way, this is 1957, therefore meaning we don't even have independence.
It's emergency.
Explain, what do you mean by emergency?
You know, this is now, none of us really can say they witnessed their own birth. You were told when you were born where it was. And my earliest memory of myself is during the 1963, the Independence Day, when the flag was hoisted at Mount Kenya.
Yes.
That's when my conscious memory begins. But before then, I'm told that we lived in the village. When they were getting married, people had already been pushed into concentration camps because that's what the villages were. People have been removed from the farms because they want to isolate the people, guard them in one place, and anybody outside of that is Mau Mau. So they tell us that after their wedding at Kabare, SCK Church, which is now St. Andrew's Kabare, they were ferried in a car belonging to one of the chiefs. I'll remember the name of the chief, and they Maklas. And then they were taken to Kemunye, to the village where they had chapati, a lunch of chapati. And those days, people didn't know how to cook chapati, so it's hard ones, I'm sure. Yeah. So just them and their best couple. The best man for my dad was the late Mwalimu Frederick Ngari wa Karekia. And my mom's best maid was Josephine.
You have the details. I love this.
But I later came to go to school with Josephine's daughter, Diana, at Kabare boarding. And Frederick Ngari Karekia, their family, my family, were besties. So as we grew up with the children. Yeah, so those are people I know well. So I'm able to remember. Okay. And Josephine is still alive.
There's something that you've said.
Yeah.
It was emergency.
Yeah.
Explain that. I'm aware there's a generation that does not understand the struggle for freedom, but also let me say, the core audience of the people who are watching this, who we create this for, are not yet born. Okay,
the colonial government had declared a state of emergency in Kenya around 55, 56 there. And they declared emergency because there was a resistance movement. The Gen Z of those days, you know, had declared war and had formed resistance groups to resist colonial domination and oppression. Land had been taken away, prime land had been taken away.
That's what they call the White Highlands.
From natives. They were farming on our best land. They were using us as labor without paying us commensurate wages. They were taxing us on those wages, punitive taxes.
Wow.
There was one tax called the poll tax, no, the heart tax, which depended on how many hearts are in a compound. It could be hearts for your wives, hearts for your children. Like I told you, my grandfather had, my paternal grandfather had 5 wives. My Mwajogu was the 5th. It meant he would pay for 5 hearts. And if my father was of age and had started his own heart, those are 6 hearts. And maybe all those other people are not working, they are dependent on you. It's like today. The punitive taxes that have made the Gen Z rise. So they had declared a state of emergency. Our home is 3 kilometers from the Mount Kenya forest. And Kemunye village is actually like 2 kilometers from the Mount Kenya forest. That's where people now are in the concentration camp, because a village was a concentration camp where you are all living in crowded space. And that is the context that my mother and father get married. They can't have a party. From the church, they come home with only the best man and the best maid. You can't have so many people
because
in
it's
your
illegal.
house.
It's illegal to do those kind of gatherings.
It's illegal. So it's a very small, quiet wedding, you know? Or it's a party of 4 people to celebrate. And that celebration is muted, because you'll have your lunch and they'll disappear back to their places and leave you. So I don't remember life in the village, which means my conscious memory had not been born.
Yes, and, and I like that you talked about your conscious memory.
Being born the day we got independence.
12th December 1963.
Yes, because I remember, what I remember, it's because it was spectacular. It's at night. Instead of being taken to sleep, we are outside of our house, and we've moved from the village now to where we live. And we get outside, it's pitch dark. You know, there are no lights, no nothing, but there's the moon and stars, and you are all focusing on the direction of the mountain. The radio is blaring music.
What's the station?
It was on a KBC. So it's saying, Munyao hoist the flag. Munyao haishia vendera. Haishia vendera. So they are anticipating and waiting for Munyao to hoist the flag at the strike of midnight. So
his name was K with a K.
Kisiom.
Yes.
Yeah, Munyao.
Yes.
But I remember in the song, the name Munyao is what you hear.
Okay.
So Munyao haishia vendera. So we are out, we are singing with the radio. The neighbors are singing, and at Kemunye, you can hear the crowds because you can't see them, but you can hear people talking animatedly. And then midnight strikes, and what you are seeing is like a signal, you know, from the mountain.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing something, and you know that, you know, they are also reporting. And you know that now we are independent. I didn't know what that meant, but I saw my dad and mom dancing. Like I'd never seen them dance. Before we got out of the house, in the house with the radio, they are dancing a tango, and my mom is wearing a kitenge. That's the earliest kitenge.
African attire.
I remember.
Yes.
And it was swishing this way and that way. And my dad even took us and is twirling us round and round, you know. They are all very excited in a way you haven't seen. You know, African couples and of that age were not very expressive. So it's a night like no other. There's excitement in the air. So I remember things from there on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So explain the reason why he was, as a mark of independence, we sent up a Kenyan representative to go and hoist a flag.
Yes. Munyao, I now know from history, was with a multiracial team. There were some white people with him.
Okay.
But the person Kenya remembers and who is in history as having hoisted the independent flag on the mountain that has given the country its name is Kisoi Munyao.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's another flag also, if I'm not wrong, being is it Uhuru Park? No?
That one now I don't remember.
You don't
because
remember?
I'm
Yes.
not
You're
in the events of
Kirinyaga.
Nairobi. I'm in Kirinyaga in my home, and we are facing the mountain. And then I remember every day my mom would show us the flag on clear days because you could see it flatter.
You could see it?
Yes. We are on the foot of the mountain. You see? We could see it for quite a while. We could see it on clear days.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just looking at it and saying, can you see that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Explain to me the place now that you live in. So you're 6 years old when this is happening.
Yeah,
6 years old when we gain independence.
Yeah.
Have you started school? And also, what is the environment? Are your uncles living here? Were you in, is it Ubuntu? Is that what you call it?
The homestead we are in, there is my paternal grandfather's house with my grandmother. Opposite our house, almost direct opposite, on the side is a kitchen for firewood for my mom. Okay? Beyond that, in the same compound, is a granary. A granary, one side is my grandmother's, the other side is my mom's granary. So it has two doors.
Yes.
And you know granaries were raised from the ground with stilts.
Yes.
You see? And then it has steps leading to it. Then far off there is a cow shed. Okay? My grandmother's house was the most interesting because it was traditional. It had a place for her goats. Gichugu. You know? The goats are down there at the Gichugu, and up is the firewood for her fire.
Yes.
Okay? And then it's like the kitchen, and the next room is where is their bedroom with my paternal grandfather, who I remember mostly always staying by the fire side. And during the day, he's out there lying down near the granary. I don't remember him going to the farm, meaning he was quite aged. And he dies soon thereafter. Okay. And I remember his cousin, his brother Mutua, which is a derivative, it's the same name with the Mukamba Mutua. Yes. The Mukamba, we call it Mutua, as we are calling it Mutua, which shows the relationship Bantu between us, because they are neighbors and we are interacting. So Mutua, who is a cousin to, a brother actually, to my paternal grandfather, he was blind. He had become blind with age. Those days, people wouldn't know about removing cataracts and all. So he has gotten blind. All he's wearing is a blanket. And he goes to the shamba every day, squatting and is weeding. I remember Mutua weeding, and wherever he sat, he's going, you can see the marks of his behind.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But he's covered with a blanket. So those days, old men didn't quite have even shorts. Even my grandfather Jarubio is covered in a blanket, you know?
Even on hot days?
Which hot days? I do not remember seasons. You see? At that stage, you're not conscious of seasons. You're just seeing him with his blanket.
Yes.
And my grandmother has a shuka which is tied on one shoulder. Later on, she has dresses.
Dresses, yeah.
So you can see the society transitioning.
Yep.
Our house is tin roofed.
Tin roofed, but is it?
It's mud.
Mud.
Yes, mud plastered. And
so tin roofed meant well.
Yeah, we were uppity, man. In terms,
you're not thatched. You're tin
in terms of the, don't you hear? My grandmother's house has 2 rooms.
Oh.
Our house has 2 bedrooms.
It
has a sitting room.
Yeah.
It has a kitchen, and 2 bedrooms on each side of the kitchen. One is my parents' bedroom. The other bedroom is for the children, boys and girls. And it has 2 beds. Actually, it had 3 beds. 2 beds, one for the girls, one for the boys, and the bed near the door for the visitor, sometimes for the house girl.
Wow.
Okay? We didn't feel crowded. So I was sharing the bed with Margaret because that time my other sisters were not born.
Yes. Oh, okay.
The boys are 2, and then a child comes, the 3rd one. You see, the child is my parents' bedroom.
Yes.
So 2 in a bed, and we didn't feel crowded. We were quite okay. Most houses those days were just 1 room, a round hut of 1 room.
Okay.
In fact, where there were adult girls, there will be kirere. Kirere will be near that goat's place where the girls are sleeping. Boys never slept in their parents' house unless if they were very young, they would be on the outside. Okay?
Oh.
If they're not married, they'll still have their own huts.
Yes.
And that's why I'm saying this system of taxing huts, you are taxing even children who have huts. Oppressive as it is today now in different ways. So one of my aunties was not married. But she was, at that time, living with my grandmother. And I remember that time her kiriri was on the side where there is the fire, the goats and the firewood, just as it should be. But shortly after that, she too got married. And I remember her husband coming to plant the idege. And he came towards the evening. That time they were doing it literally, not a ceremony like now. He came and planted something, a real idege, you know?
And that's his sign to say, I have spotted something.
He planted, and they kept some things and they went. He was with some other people, I suppose men of his age.
Yes.
And they went. And I know that after that, my aunt went.
Okay.
Yeah, to her home. So I remember all those things. And even when they went, my aunties were all married within walking distance. Maybe a kilometer or so from home or 2. And they used to visit all the time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It paints such a historical perspective of how community living.
Yeah.
We're very individualistic these days as we've become very westernized, but it's showing how we used to live back in the day. Okay, let's talk about your transition into, in fact, let me not even just talk about, let me ask, do you then go to school?
Yes.
Okay.
I go to Mugumo Primary School, which is 1 ridge away from my home. You actually can see it from my home. And that time our homestead was closer towards the Mugumo side than towards the road now where it is. So we could hear the children talking and playing in school. So I would go.
And was this your parents' school that you go to?
Yeah, that's where
your parents were teaching?
That's where my father was teaching.
Okay.
My mom had already
stopped
teaching. Yeah, my mom didn't teach anywhere in Gichugu. She was teaching on the Dia side. Because my mom comes from the Dia side of the county. And that's where Baricho and Mukinduri are. And then they move to Kabare, which is Gichugu. And my father is teaching the school just next to my home. Initially, he's taught in many other schools, but when I started school, my father was teaching in Mugumo Primary School.
Let's get a context and understanding of school. I do know now our first president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, has come into power. Meaning, and school was a system. The system isn't CBC, which we are in now.
No.
It, of course, it's not even KCPE. What
and
was
we
it
are
like?
learning in Kikuyu.
Oh.
You learn in your native, whatever. I remember my first day in school, they were not asking for ears. They are assessing you whether you are ready to go to school. And to know you are of age, we would be told to put our right hand over our head and to touch your ear.
Yes.
If you touch your ear, you are ready. If you don't touch your ear, you might be told to go back. And then we were taught to write on the soil. We had no slates, nothing. We were writing using your finger, your pointing finger. You write on the soil. You're taught the letters. Okay? After a while, you're given exercise books. You know, later years is when children were given little blackboards, slates to write on with a pencil that was special. But my generation, we wrote on the dirt, you know. We went outside and we learned how to write. Then we later graduate to books. We go to class. We are learning in Kikuyu. You are being taught everything in Kikuyu. Then when I was in standard 2, I think, or 3, they brought what was being called English medium. What does that mean? That English is the medium of communication. Yes. So nobody has taught us any English. And they introduced a thing called a monitor, which we were calling monitor. So this monitor is a wooden thing. Yes. If you speak in Kikuyu, you are given. The last one to hold the monitor, if you like, in the day, you are punished, which is rather unfair. So we were taught almost by fear, by force, and we learned. And I was lucky because when I go home in the evening, my parents will teach, will try to speak English to me. Like I remember, I had an accident at home. We were trying to imitate our parents, and I was making a kitchen garden for my greens. My mom is at the shops at Kemunye. We are home with Margaret and 2 of my brothers who are already born, then they are the toddlers. So my sister takes the djembe, the fork djembe, and I take a panga. And I'm weeding and not looking, and she's also digging. She dug my head. So one of the fangs goes into my head, and I see blood. You know, you go crazy because you're bleeding, and my mom is not at home. So off I ran, screaming, running towards the shop, which is like more than half a kilometer away. And I meet this neighbor, a woman. She takes off her headscarf and ties to stop the blood from rising upwards, carries me and races with me to the shops. So, so from there on, I'm taken to the hospital.
Is the hospital close by?
Kiruguya. My father has a vehicle, so I'm taken to...
Hold on, let's get you some water.
The hot one, if it's there.
Yes.
Can we go?
Yeah.
So I'm taken to Kiruguya Hospital by my dad, and both my parents. I'm stitched and we come back. And I have a bandage. So I have to go to school with a headscarf. And my mom is teaching me what to tell the teacher. And I'll tell you what I got and what I told the teacher. That headscarf, because of a fly touch there. I'm trying to explain in that English. This is, you know, so all I could remember when I reached school is that because of a fly touch there. Anyway.
The English was not English.
Anyway, I spoke English. And that's what
English.
Anyway, I spoke English, and that's what matters. And I didn't get the monitor. And the teacher understood, and I stayed with the Nini, you know.
But that was a crazy accident, though.
Yeah, but I was lucky. They said it hadn't gone to the bone.
Okay.
Yeah, it was superficial. You know, she also doesn't have strength. We are all young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you can see also how the society was. That the first person who meets me, yeah, just takes this child, because almost everybody knows the other. Takes this child, does first aid, because putting the headscarf is stopping the bleeding.
Yes.
You know, the profuse bleeding, because the head bleeds. Yeah. Takes me to rushes me to my mom. And I'm sure if mom wasn't around, the people would find a way of getting me to hospital. People cared for one another. There was community. The sense of community was so strong those days.
There's a saying, it takes a village to raise a person. Yeah. Literally, this is where the analogy is coming from.
Yeah, yeah,
it's coming from this setting. But there's things that you've said that automatically, on one end, I'm hearing about school. Yeah. But I'm also hearing that you're working. Yeah,
because you grow in an environment where people work. So even as children, even without being told, you are working. You are either following the adults around, or when they are not there, you are mimicking them. So I had seen my mother's and my grandmother's kitchen garden, you know, for greens. And when we talk about greens, it's real greens. Stinging nettle, that's what I wanted to plant, okay? Which is normally used for mukimo, for mashing food.
Okay, okay,
and I don't know what my sister wanted to plant, so each one of us, we were busy now at making our kitchen garden next to my mom's.
Yes.
So we are mimicking them, they are away, you see? And if there is a minder, the minder is away in the house. But normally there wouldn't even be a minder, there will be, because we are big, we are looking after the small ones. You know?
Not only are you getting independence, you're getting responsibility.
Oh yes. In fact, even you go up country today, you find a kid of 5 carrying a kid of 2 and 3 on their back.
Wow,
you see?
Wow, wow.
So you start nurturing that early, because it's the way of life. If my mom is at home and they are going to the shamba, we will be with her. If there is a very young child, you'll be on the edge of the shamba holding the child or watching them while they sleep. And you'll be playing with their toys. I actually made my very first toys. A bean bag. I knew how to sew. Yeah, you learn at school, so you make a bean bag for yourself, which you then use to throw to each other. I would make a tenquite, like the ones you've seen in school. You use dried banana leaves and a stick, and you make your own tenquite. You make a doll out of the same thing, you know? So we used to make our own, you know, our own toys, and a hula hoop, which I now know is a hula hoop mugaragari. You make with sticks that are not dry, you know, that are green. They are not firm, so
they can bend without breaking.
Yes, you make your own hula hoop, and that's it.
Your childhood sounds exciting. What's school doing for you at this time? At that time when you're going to school, what's it doing for you? Is it
socializing? Because you find a lot of people, you're mixing, and you're also learning how to read and write.
Are you many?
The school had so many people. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure the Mugumo school by that time is having hundreds. Even if there are 300 to you, it's like a whole world. Yes. Because the schools have, you know, kept on growing as more and more children went to school. Yep. Yeah, but my memory is like the school is so large because you're a small child. So the school is a very big school. There are activities all over, people out playing, you know, because different classes will have physical education at different times. There are teachers, the bell is ringing, so you're also being taught discipline. If you're out for a break and the bell rings, you have to all run to class. Everybody is running somewhere. And I remember one time, because we were walking to school and we were not wearing shoes. Nobody was allowed shoes even if you had shoes.
Nobody was allowed shoes. You're told remove your shoes.
No, no, no. You see, if you allow children of those who can afford shoes, and there were very few at that time, then you are creating an unequal situation. So the rule is nobody wears shoes.
Because that's the majority.
Because the majority won't wear shoes. So I'm going to school and I'm running because I don't want to be late. And as I'm crossing, there are two streams separating the ridge between us and the school. The second stream, which is near the school, I hit my leg on a stone and my big toe, the
ouch,
nail comes off. It's not completely off, but it's bleeding.
How old are you at this time?
I must be that six,
7 there.
Yeah, and my mind does not tell me I should go back home. So I'm limping and crying and going to school hoping. And I meet a lady, and I still remember her, Martha. I meet her, and she asked me what's the matter, and she notices I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
So she asked me where am I going to school. She just picks me, carries me on her back. Because the school is now like 100 meters away.
Yeah.
So she carries me to the headmaster's office. And where the teachers did first aid, and I was dispatched to my class.
Again, you're showing the being raised by a village.
Yeah.
This is somebody that you just bumped onto on the road. I know we're dwelling a lot here, but for me the importance is explaining the kind of upbringing and the culture that was happening.
The sense of community.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Martha takes me to school. The teachers dress the wound, and life goes on. And I go on to class. And my commitment to school, that it doesn't occur to me, I'm injured, I should go back home.
Yeah.
I'm still going, I have to go to school, and I'm going crying.
I want a pivotal, as I'm a father of two girls. So a pivotal understanding is the role of a father in terms of, and the influence that a father has on children.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with your father at this time?
I've always had a close relationship with my father. Remember, we've been born 2 girls first, and we are the first 2 children.
For a while.
In the evening, my mother is cooking. My father is sitting with us. So naturally, you are interacting with both parents, and you're spending quality time with your father too. My father used to read with us in the evening.
Wow.
Okay? And I remember a storybook he had bought, The Jumping Rabbit. You know, it's more pictures and big words.
Yes.
So it's now I know it was a very small book. And I memorized it. So I'm telling my dad the entire story, and he's very impressed and congratulates me.
Nice. And
that encourages you to want to read more. And when now I was in upper classes like standard 4, I have the brighter grammar to improve my English, and I'm doing some work. I had a very good teacher who is still alive today, Gichugu Co. He was my English teacher, and he did a great job.
Thank you, Jero. This part of what you do here is honor the people.
I actually went to visit him
nice.
Last December, and we took him something warm.
Wow.
Yeah. So those were the first whatever. So we've developed a very close bond with my dad. Days of my teenage, of course, there is rebellion, and you are at loggerheads all the time. But as I grew up, I knew now how to handle. He is very strong-willed, and as you can see, I am his daughter.
Yes.
And I found now a way of not colliding, making friends, and how to go around and convince him to see it my way. So we are able to relate.
I wouldn't normally ask this question to somebody seated here, but I'll ask it to you because you've mentioned them, and they also sound like a parent. Your grandma, because she's also part of the people who's raising you. What's your relationship? What does she play a role in your life?
I was so close to my paternal grandmother. I was also close to the maternal one. After all, I'm named after her. But you see the paternal one, I'm in the same homestead with her.
Yes.
Mwanjogu.
Yes.
In the evening, there are days I'll go to her house to warm. Actually, almost every day I'll pass by her house. We'll warm in the fire, and then I'll go now to our house. You see? It's pitch dark, but you just walk in between the two houses.
For context, there is no electricity.
Yeah. So she'll open the door a little so that the fire in her house can light a little bit for me to see the door. Okay? And she'll stand out there to watch me enter. And what is the significance of standing out there? Bushes have not completely been cleared.
Animals.
So occasionally there can be a fox, although I never saw any. But this is the time that people are clearing, either to plant coffee, cash crops, tea, or to farm. So the little bushes would always be there. So if a child is out, there has to be a grown-up.
Okay.
Otherwise, a child can be taken by, we used to hear hyenas beat. Yeah. So I would then go back to our house. So my grandmother used to tell me stories. And our dad also would tell us stories, but the most stories, my grandmother. So we'd go there. We'd also eat at her place, ngwashe. Ngwashe, which are roasted, sweet potatoes, roasted on the fire, not boiled, and they would really be sweet. If it's a season of green maize, we'll be roasting. If there are yams, because every home had yams, we'll be roasting. So my grandmother's house, I associated it with certain traditional delicacies. Yeah, or just a roasted banana, you know, really nice.
I love it.
Yeah, so we had this relationship even later years, and she even left me her grinding stone for grinding porridge.
Is that symbolic?
Yeah.
What I'm understanding from your story thus far, hearing it from you, is that indeed there was a community that was raising you. There are a lot of people who are responsible to the values and the foundation these early years.
Yeah.
How do you do in school? And when do you finish primary, and then help us transition from that then?
Primary, I go to Mugumo up to class 4. Then I go to class 5 to a boarding school at Kabare. You went to boarding
in class 5?
Yes, I go to boarding school to Kabare, which is about 8 kilometers from home. Margaret has already gone to Kabare and has been in Kabare for 1 year before I joined her, because she was 1 class ahead of me.
Yeah.
But when I joined her in Kabare, we stayed there for 1 year. Then we both go to St. Michael's Kirugoya. And Margaret is made to, we both are admitted to standard 6. So she sort of goes 1 class backwards, and we join.
Oh, I get it. Yes.
Because on admission, they've admitted us to the same class. Which those days parents found it okay, even if you just drop 1 class, after all you are young. So because there was a vacancy in standard 6, we both go to 6 in St. Michael's. And from then on, we were classmates with Margaret up to when we finished Form 4. And
what's your relationship with her?
We are close.
Okay, nice.
Remember, she was the pioneer in boarding, so I have her to help me settle.
She's a buffer when you join. She's
And then we go to Kirugoya together, so we have each other to settle in a new school.
Okay.
She taught me how to sew up my name on my clothes, because when you go to boarding, what you learn is that your clothes have to have a distinguishing mark. Otherwise, you'll not be able to differentiate your blouse, your tunic from the rest of the school. So she is a buffer for me when I go to boarding. Yeah.
I told you guys it's a good one. I told you it's a good one. Don't be greedy. Share this with people. People need to watch this.
Yeah.
I want to pause a bit on your story. I want to understand the context of the first president, and you're cognizant now. You are aware from 1963, your senses came alive, and you have memories, and you're understanding. You're seeing change. Tell us a little bit about the era of the first president. What does that mean for the country? What does that look like? Just explain to us from your perspective.
Let me say this, that after independence,